Welcome to Godless Panther's video about Ken Ham's Big Lie. Here's what I'm going to be going over. Primarily, we'll be looking at Ken Ham's response to Zack Kopplin. First, I want to bring us together on who Zack Kopplin is, the laws that he is fighting against, and why it is so important. Zack Kopplin is a 19-year-old college student and resident of the state of Louisiana. Over the past few years, he has been fighting to repeal a law in his home state that is dishonestly titled the Louisiana Science Education Act. The problem with the law lies in the particular wording, open and objective discussion of scientific theories being studied, including but not limited to evolution, the origins of life, global warming, and human cloning. And this may use supplemental textbooks and other instructional materials to help students understand, analyze, critique, and review scientific theory. This is actually a sneaky, underhanded way of slipping creationism into the back door of our education system. It was launched by the notorious lie factory, the Discovery Institute. One thing that is frightening about this is the efficacy of it. Unless one has some background information about creationists and the type of tactics that they have been using to sneak creationism through any little crack in the system that they can find, then one is not likely to recognize this as a sleazy political tactic. To use the words of Kopplin, you don't need a law to teach critical thinking. That's what science is. You need a law to teach creationism. So, how great is the danger? Another part of the problem is government-funded vouchers for enrolling students in private schools. Zack Kopplin compiled a list of 300 schools nationwide that are partially funded by federal tax dollars and teach superstitious bullshit in place of real science. Looking further into the curricula of these schools, we find that many of them use material published by Abeka and Bob Jones University. These are fundy textbooks that are completely unrestrained. This means that they are unmitigated brainwashing tools, and the contents are some unbelievably fucked up bullshit. I will provide a few examples from these textbooks. And take note that these textbooks are currently being used in classrooms around the United States and funded at least in part by the government. Okay, here's one example. Is it possible that a fire-breathing animal really existed? Today, some scientists are saying yes. They have found large chambers in certain dinosaur skulls. The large skull chambers could have contained special chemical-producing glands. When the animal forced the chemicals out of its mouth or nose, these substances may have combined and produced fire and smoke. That's from Life Science, 3rd edition, Bob Jones University Press from 2007. Here's another example from that same book. Bible-believing Christians cannot accept any evolutionary interpretation. Dinosaurs and humans were definitely on Earth at the same time, and they may have lived side by side within the past few thousand years. Okay, we'll move on to economics, work and prosperity in Christian perspective, 2nd edition, Abeka book, 1999. But instead of this world unification ushering in an age of prosperity and peace, as most globalists believe it will be a time of unimaginable human suffering as recorded in God's Word. The Antichrist will tightly regulate who may buy and sell. Okay, and here's one example that just really made me blow my top. It's from a 1990 4th grade science book published by Bob Jones University. I have no idea if this is still used or not, but it was some years ago. Text is small, I'll read it to you. Electricity is a mystery. No one has ever observed it or heard it or felt it. We can see and hear and feel only what electricity does. We know that it makes light bulbs shine, and irons heat up, and telephones ring, but we cannot say what electricity itself is like. We cannot even say where electricity comes from. Some scientists think that the sun may be the source of most of it. Others think the movement of the earth produces some of it. All anyone knows is that electricity seems to be everywhere, and there are many ways to bring it forth. And then we see a photograph there of a girl using a hairdryer, and I guess that hairdryer is powered by some sort of mystery stuff that nobody knows anything about. And she's wearing an outfit that looks more 1960 than 1990. The fact is that stuffing shit like this into kids' heads is irresponsible at best, and I would say that it is downright abusive. Kids who are being subjected to idiotic crap like this are being deprived of education. But hey, at least they can't fuck with math. Math, by its very nature, can't possibly have a political or religious bias. So we can rest assured that the kids using the Bob Jones or Abeka textbooks are learning the very same math that everyone else is, right? I spoke too soon. From Abeka again. And unlike the modern math theorists who believe that mathematics is a creation of man and thus arbitrary and relative, Abeka book teaches that the laws of mathematics are a creation of God and thus absolute. Abeka book provides attractive, legible, and workable traditional mathematics texts that are not burdened with modern theories such as set theory. And to those of you who suspect that I may be making this stuff up, all I can say is, I wish. I presented these examples to demonstrate the importance of this issue. The future of education is at stake. Fortunately, there are persons such as Zack Kopplin who are trying to make our future look brighter. I hope he runs for president someday. So now, light a candle again because I'm going to take you back to the dark side. That old shit stain, Ken Ham, responded to the publicity that Zack Kopplin has been getting with his usual ugliness, and that is what I'm going to address finally. The topic here is the big lie, and I will be using Ken Ham's article from January 21st, 2013, considering Zack Kopplin. The big lie is a term that was coined by Adolf Hitler in his book Mein Kampf. He describes a lie that is so colossal that it would be assumed that no one, quote, could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously. The way that the big lie functions is that the attention gets focused on smaller lies that are built around it, and the root of these lies gets ignored. Since then, the big lie has been used to describe propaganda of all sorts. I will be using it here to describe Ken Ham's bullshit. The article that Ken Ham wrote about Zack Kopplin is longer than most articles he writes, so I'm not going to go over this whole thing here. Ham gets to use his big lie in the second paragraph where he states, "Atheistic evolutionists do not want any talk of critiquing or thinking critically about evolutionary ideas because it is their way of explaining life without God, which is why we call evolutionary worldview a religion." The lie is not actually about science, it is not about evolution, religion, ideology, it's about people. It's the lie that people do not and cannot function without Ken Ham's sacred dogma. Remember the video in where Ken Ham finds Bill Nye so offensive because Nye is a humanist? That is because Ken Ham is the opposite. He is a dehumanist. He is a narcissist. Human beings who do not serve a purpose for Ken Ham's selfish desires, according to Ken Ham, serve no purpose at all. Ham's article concerning Zack Kopplin demonstrates that in order for a person to be a person, according to Ham, one has to believe that science is not dependent on natural real-world evidence. he makes that claim. Now, there's no reason that science must be naturalistic. This is simply an assertion made by Kopplin and atheistic evolutionists. Okay, so if science can be supernatural, then whose opinions on the supernatural are we to adopt and label it science? I know, pick me. Ken Ham's idiotic bullshit. Right. Ham goes on to attempt to validate his cult with the claim that there are PhD scientists in it. So fucking what? Romp's School of Enlightenment, Scientology, and others make the same claim. Intelligent people can and do believe very unintelligent things, tested and proven. He challenges Zack Kopplin to debate one of his faithful bootlickers. I personally am of the opinion that creationists should be completely ignored rather than debated. There is no debate. To use an analogy, say there is someone who is suffering from severe delusions and living in a mental institution because he believes himself to be Ramses II. Say he challenges any Egyptologist to debate him, prove that he is not who he claims to be. No reasonable historian would waste time with this shit. The same applies to Hamians. These are people who are so delusional that they think Noah's fucking Ark really happened. Nobody is under any obligation to take that the least bit seriously. The idea that the theory of evolution is a religion, the Flintstones is a documentary, and then Ken's magic imaginary goo-goo fuck is the only source of real truth are all just too stupid to take seriously. So now I'm going to jump to Ham's concluding statement. That's this. This example should be a warning to parents. Kopplin is a product of the secular education system, a system that is also indoctrinating generations of children from church homes. We urge parents to recognize their kids need to be rescued from this evil age. Since this article, there are several others that Ken Ham has written which reinforce my belief that Ham is a dangerous cult leader. In October 2012, the AIG came up with their so-called theme of standing our ground, rescuing our kids. Since then, Ham has been creating this false war along with subtle, catastrophic, apocalyptic tone. His narcissism appears to be increasing along with his alienation of those who are not in his cult. This suggests that Ham is going down a similar road as Charles Manson, Jim Jones, David Koresh, etc. Now, I'm not saying that I predict that his cult will end in such horrible tragedy that the others I mentioned did. I do, however, predict that it will end, and that end will not be pretty. On the off chance that there are any Ken Hamites who actually watched this video, quit that stupid cult right now. Live your life such that Ken Ham will consider you to be one without purpose or meaning and without a sense of morality. And take that as a compliment.